And he started getting bad, I mean, not bad, just not doing his work, he didn't have any discipline. What he knew growing up, he was never able to to overcome that and actually become a family man or know what a family is.
And I think because of the characters he played, he had living somehow. To me, he was an adventurer.
Hi, I'm Rob Word. Welcome to A Word on Westerns. And you know where I am? One of my all-time favorite places, Lone Pine, California, where not just the ghost of Randolph Scott and Audie Murphy and Tim Holt are here, but the ghost of Errol Flynn. And you know who else is here? The daughter of Errol Flynn, Rory Flynn. Welcome to Lone Pine, your first time here. And we got Bruce Boxleitner here, who knows about all the guys I was just talking about.
Who are those guys? Yeah, my first time here. Oh boy, I'm loving it. I've never seen really such beauty. And I'm a photographer, and I never have come out here to take pictures. It's absolutely amazing. My dad must have had a fantastic time out here.
Well, you know, when the crews would come out here, they loved it because they got a great angle every direction they looked in, so they could set up without having to do big transfers and moving to another location. They just tilted the camera.
Right.
Kind of like we're going to do today.
Moving with the sun.
Yes.
Okay.
Speaking of that, the light in this place is so unique for a shooting because what you and I are looking at right now, this look, try this around 4 o'clock. Try this around 5, 6. It's a total different.
Totally different.
This place is a movie every day.
Where Mount Whitney is and the Lone Pine Peak, when the sun comes up in the east and the sun, they turn orange and glow.
That's right.
It's
This morning,
gorgeous.
they were orange. 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
It's fabulous.
Yeah.
So I'm happy you're here for the first time, too. Your dad shot a couple of terrific movies here.
The Light Brigade rides again, and a glorious story lives again, sweeping you across thousands of miles of Asia, from the battlefield of Balaclava to the historic Khyber Pass.
And this morning, we dedicated the Errol Flynn Rock.
We're very, very fortunate to be joined this morning. Rory Flynn is with us today. So I'd like to introduce Rory Flynn to everyone. Who's very, very graciously agreed to attend our festival and very graciously agreed to join us on this tour.
Australian Ross Sanalski is a historian of Lone Pine and the Alabama Hills. He led our group through several astounding locations used in movies and TV shows.
What's happening here is we've got the opening scene. We've got the wonderful opening scene with the British Army coming down this track here. And you can see in picture number 2, that's Errol Flynn. Wow, looking extremely handsome like most Australians do look.
We were on our way to the spot where decades ago Errol Flynn filmed scenes for The Charge of the Light Brigade and Kim. Ross and Don Kelson led us through several narrow passages, and we gathered for an unofficial ceremony to anoint a large boulder in the name of Errol Flynn.
Rory, come forward. And these rocks here from Kim, okay, from Kim, 1950 from Kim. He comes and he's riding his horse, and we capture him at this very moment here in full regalia, with whip and everything, and there he is. So
That's a good rock.
and that's a great rock. I think it's a great. And not only is it a good rock, it's in good company with the hoppy rocks right there beside.
And facing the sun.
So would you like to say something, Rory?
I'm astounded to be here, okay? First of all, I've never been here, and I think I've never been up in this area, and I think it is absolutely so beautiful. And to see where my dad did this film is really interesting. This is wonderful to have a dedication here. I'll be back, obviously, if we have a rock.
I'm telling you, he lived before he ever got to England to do repertory theater doing the outskirts, and then West End and everything. I mean, he lived this life I always said your father lived at least 3 lifetimes in one, of a time when there was still the ability to be an adventurer, a soldier of fortune in many ways.
And he brought that feeling to life.
I just want to say, even the character of Robin Hood, the ultimate scamp, the outlaw, the thumb in the eye of King John, and you can tell he had it in his genes. That's why he was perfectly natural then.
From this night on, I use every means in my power to fight you.
And in all those films, in Captain Blood, you know,
Captain
when
Blood,
they first
sure.
started shooting that, because he was new, he had played a corpse in the Perry Mason movie that Michael Curtiz directed, and then he did one other little small film, but Jack Warner said, let's make this guy the star of Captain Blood, and they did, so they started shooting, but he was, the first couple of weeks, not on his game, nervous with them. I mean, a huge production like that. And so at the end of the film, because they used to test things all the time, they said, we're going to go back and reshoot the first 2 weeks. We've got a lot of money on this film, but he's so good now, we're going to do it again. So they reshot the first 2 weeks.
It's the world against us, and us against the world. Those of you in favor of these articles, raise your right hands and say aye! Aye!
It made him and Olivia de Havilland not just instant stars, but an instant movie couple.
Yeah.
Yes, I always love them as
And it's so good. And right after that, you know, they put him in the Charge of the Light Brigade, and then they Robin Hood. It just one right after another. But he didn't like those roles. He thought they were kids' movies.
That's what his book.
Yeah,
I think he really envied those Robert Donat and Barrymore and probably young.
Even Gary Cooper.
Yeah. Well, he was anxious about that because Cooper was a Montanan who was actually raised in England, didn't know how to play baseball when he played Lou Gehrig because he knew cricket, but he was a kid from Montana.
It's not making me cry, but tears are rolling down my face only because it's so bright out here. So, excuse me while I
always thought you
slip
were
this on.
so overly emotional.
Oh, there you
This is
go.
better. Oh, now I can see who's here. I was squinting so
Bruce,
much.
remember me?
Yeah, let's talk about his
Rory.
films a bit, though.
Yeah.
I know that he did 8 westerns, and when people think of him initially, they obviously as a swashbuckler from those wonderful films, but he did 8 westerns. One of them, his first, Dodge City, is epic in Technicolor with the biggest brawl in a saloon that goes on, and he was with his buddies that became just co-stars in so many films, Alan Hale and Gwen Big Boy Williams, and just
and they were all up at the house with by Mulholland. He had parties all the time up at the house, especially for my mom.
Is this the one that was up on Mulholland?
On Mulholland, we had 8.5 acres up there, and that's where I grew up. But he also had this barn down at and that's where he had his cockfights with all of his buddies. He took them down there. And I don't think it was legal, but he didn't care.
Back in those days, we don't really know.
From Tasmania, you think he's going to ask for permission to do anything like that? So, but those guys were always around, you know, Big Boy and Alan Hale, all those guys.
Well, those were rugged guys. I mean, Big Boy.
Just watching what they did in the movies, my friend. We don't really have the actors like that anymore. They were rugged.
Well,
they could do things.
In Rocky Mountain, where Slim Pickens made his film debut and Big Boy, those guys are riding flat out.
Wow.
Too.
They made sure to
know.
have them in front on camera to make sure it really made it authentic. No, those are the guys. These aren't stunt doubles going back.
Right.
No,
You know?
beautiful riding, isn't it? Just
So action filled.
thrilled to see those guys ride horses. Unlike this.
And then with Dickie Jones, he's ducking under the horse.
Yes.
Like, a gag that he did
all know
in Range Rider.
Yeah.
Range Riders, that's right. Wasn't he also in, what else did he do? Buffalo Bill Jr.
Buffalo Bill Jr. was a
him.
show. So when you were growing up, all those shows, like for us, that's what we were watching. You watched those too?
Yeah, I watched, Sky King.
Yes.
it was big.
All of them.
What was the name of the plane?
Oh, I don't remember.
Songbird.
Songbird.
And what about, Lloyd Bridges and The Sea Hunt? We love to see
those were all good.
Tell by all the great fancy makeup they have.
Okay.
As we're passing.
You guys didn't see the red light that we were taping? There they go. This is, again, a great location. And the charge of the Light Brigade and Kim were shot up in with these rocks, too.
You know, when I watch Kim, it doesn't occur to me that it's here. You know, until it just doesn't.
No, because you believe it's Kurdistan or wherever the heck it's supposed to be.
They're all supposed to be in India and stuff. And
the Northern
Gunga Din,
Territories.
and they were all shot here. And you can see why now that you're here. And it's only like 3 hours north of LA. And it used to take a full day to get up here with the crews and stuff. Because
but remember, Hollywood up until how many years didn't bother. They didn't go to these. They built them.
And
they built them and made them.
That's why I think that
right.
the Poverty Row B Westerns, BNC Westerns, because they didn't have a studio, they would come out here and shoot the whole film out here because they didn't have a soundstage.
There you go.
And they'd shoot these great vistas, and it would give them a huge production value. MGM would send a B unit out to shoot footage with stunt doubles, and then they'd go back and build a set on the sound stage. And so the main stars, you see, like Clark Gable and these people, and the rear screen projection, and those just don't hold up like a Tex Ritter movie or a Tom Tyler. You grew up with your dad and a sister and a brother, and what I'm curious about is your name, Rory. Where did that come from?
Isn't that a great name?
Beautiful.
It's such a great name. Apparently, my dad named me before I was born. He was on a film, and he told my mother, I don't care if it's a boy or girl, it's going to be Rory. So, and you know, it's very Irish, and it really works well, Rory Flynn. So I've never wanted to change it, even with marriage.
And it's distinctive. And you were a photographer too for a long time, and so Rory Flynn, that's a great name to come with, and like Bruce said, a model as well. So did that come first, being a model?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was about 17 when I was seen, and a photographer came to LA and took some pictures of me in a bathing suit, right? And I was just one drink of water, you know, seriously, I'm almost 6 foot. And they sent him back to Eileen Ford and to Stewart Modeling Agency. And Stewart Modeling Agency was really big too, and they brought me out to New York. And I had never, I didn't know what it was like to live in the city. I was running around barefoot in Laurel Canyon, okay? I go to the city, I put shoes on, oh my God. Anyways, it was so new to me to be in a big city, but I succeeded. I worked very well. I was one of the tallest there. I went to USA, took extension courses in writing and photography. And then I went and I should tell you the story of how I got my first job, which you can imagine there is no first job unless you've already had a job, you know, the catch-22.
Yes.
So I went into John Daly. I went in and I brought in my friend's portfolio. And I told him, I did this, right? And it was very scary because he had gone to Mexico to shoot a film called The Alamo, and he had taken all these pictures of horses, and Edward Almos, or whatever his name was the star.
James Olmos,
And he had pictures of that, and so I'm opening the portfolio, and he's going, oh, you know this guy? And I'm going, yeah, he was great. And, you know, and I had to go and I had to lie completely, and he says, okay. This isn't very good, but I really loved your dad, and you get this, and I'm going to give you this job, and you better do a good job. I said, okay, so no pressure, and this was Return of the Living Dead, which was all night shoots, no budget whatsoever, and I'll never forget.
Edward James Olmos or any big star.
Anyways, I don't know if you want these stories.
I'm not a big fan of the horror genre for that very reason. They do some creepy things.
But it's great that John Daly liked your dad.
Yeah.
Bruce loves your dad too, and
he gave me a
all
chance.
Of these great films.
And I ended up working for ABC and all of them, and going.
And you came through for John Daly, and
yes, definitely.
And your dad would be.
Your dad was smiling from. He was proud of you.
I have a career. I can do it. I can live independently. So.
Well, your dad's career was so interesting because growing up, he was, I guess, a rowdy young boy.
Imagine was like just in the early 1900s. I mean, he was 1920s and teens.
You can't imagine is the town of Tasmania in that.
It was a wild.
And he was born there and raised there, and as you know, it was just wild. It was Aborigines, and then they started bringing in the convicts, and they had the convicts building prisons for themselves, you know. So it was ruled by England, which didn't even pay any attention to any of it. But very sad stories about the Aborigines and this and that. But I think it was very uncivilized for my father's mother, for sure, and his father is so oblivious to anything except science, and he's happy to be in a university and let them, you know, follow through. So I think he really got in a lot of trouble after his mother left. After with the baby, she had
How old
his
was
sister.
he then?
He was 10. His sister came along when he was 10. So she left and moved to Sydney, Australia. And he started getting, you know, bad. You know, I mean, not bad, just not doing his work. He didn't have any discipline. What he knew growing up, he was never able to, to overcome that and actually become a family man or know what a family is. You know, I think it was just very foreign. He went off on his own. He, gosh knows that he sailed at least, I don't know how many, all of the 7 seas, just hitchhiking all over the world.
I think that's so fascinating, though. And I think because of the characters he played, he had living somehow. He was to me, he was an adventurer. I read Wicked, Wicked Ways. Whatever people say, there's a lot of fiction stuff, but there was enough there, as far as I'm concerned, that his tales of being in New Guinea. You know how wild that part of the world must have been back then, and a young man making his way by his wit and his just audacity. And I think at one point he was wanted for murder during a uprising that happened while he was overlooking a huge plantation.
It was a tobacco plantation, right?
Yes, right. And they had some kind of an uprising, and there were cannibals in the jungles and everything.
Well, what actually happened was
with that?
They were. My dad was just trying to get a job anywhere. I mean, that's all he was doing, menial jobs here and there. And one of them was a tourist guide. He decided he was to take people into the jungle that were looking for the bird of paradise feathers. It was a big deal to get those. And at that point, they were attacked by a tribe, and he did shoot and kill, supposedly, because he went to jail. And there's records of him there in jail. And it turned out self-defense, luckily, but he sat in jail for a while. All of this is good stuff to be an actor, right? You know, I always have these feelings about how actors become actors, how they work up to it, you know. And this thing with my dad is that he never wanted to be an actor. I mean, he just wanted to make a living, you know, and he wanted to get in whatever was happening to be in on it. But I don't believe that he had an actor's mind of like, I am progressing, I'm going to this, you know, I'm moving up the scale. He didn't do that. It's like, it's so strange to go into a profession and you're a hit right away. That's it. So what he had to learn right away, you know, with just the people and the sets, and I mean,
the
and
pressure.
coming from,
But still, I maintain that's from the life he led.
Yes.
He had to do it on the fly. He had to adapt to what he was doing.
And he was
make
such
it
a natural athlete.
He was natural.
And graceful, too.
Graceful athlete, yeah.
Who's going to look good in a pair of tights? Right?
Nobody since. I'm telling you.
You know, when he did go to Australia, he was he was a junior champion of the tennis in that school there. So that was one of the the things that he did well. But you know, if you think about this young guy, he's 15 years old. He's in Australia now because he's been kicked out of Tasmania, basically. And he meets these guys in his school, and they all are kind of rebels. They're all like looking for, you know, and they're having fun, they're gambling, they're doing this. The story of how they win that boat is one thing. But once they decide to take that journey, the 4 of them, up, we're talking, it's 3 months, it's 3,000 miles up from Sydney up to New Guinea. What do? All along the way, they're stopping at these boxing, you know, throwing Errol out there, go get us money. You know, it's really about these 4 guys finding this boat in some kind of, you know, deal. They said it was a card game. But to actually have, you know, and they're all, only one of them actually knows how to sail, really. You know, my dad was always around boats in Tasmania because it's surrounded, but anyways, they learned everything on that boat, going up the coast, again, 3,000 miles up to New Guinea, to a gold rush. These guys decided, we're going to a gold rush. I mean, anyways, he actually, so they go up, it takes them 3 months to get up there. And the other guys, they actually decide they don't want to stay there. As soon as they got to New Guinea, they went, nope, we're not staying here. My father and one of the other ones said, okay, let's put in a stake. And they put in a stake. And so for some reason he had to stay there, you know, and hope. So from that point on, he just took on every job, you know, that he could. We've heard about the ones where he's with the sheep and he has to cut off the balls of the sheep, where they used to bite them off because that's the only way they heal properly.
Yeah.
So he was in that line like that, right? So I don't know any other actors who were in a line like that. So anyways, back to getting... So he did that, and as I said before, he took on all these menial jobs. And he made a living, and then he got in trouble with the bird of paradise feathers, and that was it.
Well, it's all of those things that he grew up with that gave him that sense of, yes, he could do this. Like you said, they put him in these movies. He had no experience to do that.
But he had balls, man.
But he'd studied acting a little in London, but to be able to be the lead in a mega $1 million film.
So just one more story about how the one job that he took, this camera crew wanted to shoot the most horrible river in the world, the Siptic River. Siptic River, is that how you say it? Yeah. And nobody goes up there, so they hired my dad to take them up to shoot all the headhunters and this and that. And I think that's where he got malaria. That's where, you know, a lot of... New Guinea.
Yeah.
So, you
Cannibals.
But your dad hung out with the guys that he hung out with in movies, makes it even better.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny because he didn't ever schmooze anybody. He didn't try to get close to Clark Gable or close. You know how actors really need to network. He was not a networker, and I could say that maybe because he was a star overnight, he didn't need to. You know, to be that.
Well, didn't he hang out?
They wanted to schmooze with him more often.
Didn't he hang out with John Barrymore too?
Yeah. Well, he really really idolized. I mean, he thought he was terrific, and I don't know.
Whoa!
Lackadaisical.
Now that's a stop.
See, this is on location shooting.
We should.
Want to wrap it up real quick?
Yeah, let's just keep going like this, okay? We'll just give us a shot of that.
Flying through us and hitting.
And then we're gonna. All right.
Mother Nature's saying it's a wrap.
You know,
We've just lost our umbrella, putting you all in shade. It toppled down, and I tell you, I could just keep going on
This
and
is
on.
shooting on location.
You know, I did want to mention with the Sepik River, just wanted to tell you the story of him going up there. The camera crew that was on there, they were shooting to something about malaria. It was more of doctors that was this crew. It was for, anyways, one of the guys got Errol in the shot. And that was how he became a star.
Somebody saw that footage.
Yeah, the director of the Mutiny on the Bounty or whatever it was.
On the Bounty it was,
yeah. Saw that picture and he said, I want that guy. Can we get a hold of that guy?
Photogenic.
So he got,
As Fletcher Christian, what a deal.
Yeah, right.
And that film actually was released, but it never showed in the United States. Even after he became a star, I would have thought somebody would have picked it up to distribute it, but probably what happened is Jack Warner said, I'm buying that and it's never going to be seen anywhere.
Exactly, because it was so bad. I mean, everything about it, not even my dad with this weird blonde wig on, right? It was very funny.
We are going to have to wrap this up, but tell us about the book you wrote.
The book I wrote.
Yes.
Okay, so it's called The Baron of Mulholland. That's where I grew up on Mulholland, and it's really just about my childhood with my dad. It's only my 12 years of what I got of him. And they're great stories. I have a lot of really good ones. We had a lot of fun together when I got him. That's all that he was concerned about. He knew he was gone all the time. We've talked about him not being a family man, but he knew and loved kids, and he knew how to entertain us. And it was always special with him, and it had to be because we didn't get to see him all that time. He couldn't be a regular father where you know, okay, go to bed now, eat your dinner.
When he's off for 3 months.
I can identify with
So
that.
he tried to make up for it by just doing things with us, you know, taking us to the beach. Oh God, I've got so many great stories in my book about him and saving a dolphin when we were at the beach and all these, you know, things that I remember so well about. So you've got to read my book.
Well, and we also have to get back together and do this again,
For sure,
Rory. It's
Rob.
been wonderful.
I would love it. I would
And
love
Bruce
it.
too. Bruce is thrilled to be wedged between us,
I am.
hearing these
I am.
stories about.
I love the way you've humanized him, that only you can. I was saying to her earlier that it's rare, and for you even, and the people you've interviewed through all these 11 years on this and during the Golden Boot Awards and things like that, very few people, we have a direct living bridge to someone from the golden, who was probably one of the biggest movie stars of the golden age, the true golden age, pre-World War II, of Hollywood. We get a lot of people from the 1950s television and 60s, and that's great, and that's way back. But this is that other era that is so hard to find anymore.
Find connections with because
a living
most of the
connection
people
you are.
gone, and, it's just
And your book is going to be
wonderful sharing.
invaluable in that.
Yeah.
I think.
Great.
I'm going to yellow line it like this, and then we'll do this again.
Okay.
All right. Thank
We
you all.
will.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rory.
Bruce.
Thank you.
Oh, gosh.
All right, that's it for A Word on Westerns out in Lone Pine, California. Hope we see you all on our next episode. Thanks for joining us.